We are live. Sorry for the extreme close-up of my face there, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. It's your buddy Adam from Podcasting Business School. It's the show where I teach you how to love your podcast like a hobby, but build it like a business. We are doing our Wednesday night live successfully so far. 2 weeks in a row, we've gone live while on vacation from the porch at the Lake of the Ozarks. So it's been, I had to use my Rogue travel audio setup. But I think that we are doing all right. So we're live on YouTube, live on Facebook, live on the IG. If you guys have podcasting questions, you can post them in the comments and we will get you taken care of. What's up? Justin Shank from the Growth Now Movement. What is up? Greg Bornstein. What's up, man? Speaking of Coach Justin, if you guys have not registered for Growth Now Movement, the Growth Now Summit, I believe is what it's called now. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Justin. Make sure you guys check that out. Follow him at Growth Now Movement on social. And I'm going to be there. It's next March. So it's going to be an amazing event. Greg, if you guys think that I have a good podcasting voice, my brother Greg Bornstein has an even better one. And he's super cool. He's got a great show. All right. So we're talking podcasting tips. We're talking about, any Q&A that you guys have. I'm just getting things warmed up here. The YouTube channel is like 3 weeks old. And I think I'm close to 15 episodes or 15 videos posted on YouTube. So I'm very proud of that. If you guys if you like consuming video content, just go to YouTube and search Podcasting Business School. I've got a ton of stuff on there. All of my interviews I'm doing are popping up live on there and immediate. So you don't have to wait for them on the podcast audio. But if you're an audio person, which I admit that's kind of how I am, I watch all my crypto videos on YouTube, but then all my other stuff is through podcast audio. Let's see here. Justin says, yes, Growth Now Summit live. That's in May. May. It sounds like March in my head. So next May, I will be there. And I think some of my friends will be there as well, including everybody watching. All right. Let's talk a little bit about podcast growth. I just put out an episode this week. If you guys have podcasting questions, you can drop comments, leave them. I will try to stay plugged in. I got to look around all my stuff, my Rogue setup here. So podcast growth. I just dropped episode 184 Podcasting Business School yesterday, which I gave you some tips on how to maximize what I call the 3 podcast growth zones. I want to cover that real quick, but of course, if you're in a deep dive into that, and if you're looking to grow your show, check out episode 184 of Podcasting Business School. So the 3 growth zones that I kind of think about these, we do the basics already. So it's assumed that we're putting out consistent content and that we are alerting people that follow us on social media. All right. Those are the basics, but a lot of people just do the basics. I'm putting out content. That's a great first step, but they're like, why am I only getting 7 downloads? And 2 of them are me because I have my iPhone and iPad subscribed, and my mom and my dog, and then 3 other people from Nigeria or something. How come I only get 7 downloads an episode? It's because you aren't marketing your show effectively. So I'm going to give you 3 growth zones that you can take advantage of, and we'll cover those real quickly. First one, OPP, other people's podcasts. We all know that, but we really want to think about getting other people's podcasts, not just anybody. At first, I was just happy to get anybody's podcast, and we're all kind of like that. I was on a show, yes. It was about sled dog survival skills, and I don't know if it's my niche or not, but we're just happy to be on a show. So we're going to get on shows in our niche. All right. So think about what niche you serve, and maybe there's a tangential or a direct correlated niche that you can get on their show. All right. Now, if you podcast for long enough, you will get the emails that say, hey, podcaster, I've got a great guest for you, and they need to be on your show because of X, Y, Z. And, after you get enough of those, you start kind of just not even reading them. So how do we get on other people's shows? The most effective way that I've found is to invite people on my show first. So we invite them on our show first. We make friends. Maybe you do a live cast. You create content together. And many times you will get invited back for an interview. Now, I did this when I rebranded my health show, Million Pound Mission. I did 10 reach outs per week in the top 200. This is back when Apple had their top 200 category rankings. I would do 10 reach outs per week out of the top 200 list. And that year, I did that for a year, and I was on 50 of the top 200 shows, and my show became one of the top 200 shows in those rankings. So getting on other people's podcasts, I always invited other people first, made friends, got on their show most of the time. But for me, it was about 80% of the time. Because we're creating good content together, like, oh, you should come on my show too, so we can have a conversation like this one. All right, so OPP, other people's podcast. The second growth zone is having a social media strategy. Not necessarily going, hey, y'all, episode 184 is live. Here's a promo image. Like, that's, again, the basics. You know, I think we should be looking at, when are you going live like I am right now? When is your night of the week that you kind of train your audience wherever you want to train them on when you're going live? That's why I've been doing this for 3 weeks in a row, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm showing up, whether I'm at the lake house or whether I'm in my podcast bunker. I'm going to be showing up live at this time. I'm trying to train my audience on YouTube and Instagram specifically, going, hey, if you have podcasting questions, you can show up live, you can ask them, and I'll blast away and get you taken care of. So when are you going live? Like, what social media platforms are working for you? All right. Like, really think about, I don't think we need to be everywhere, but what 2 or 3 are working well for you? Right now, for me, I'm kind of testing YouTube. That's just kind of new territory. But Instagram works well, and Clubhouse is working really damn well. Like, Clubhouse is probably my number 1. Instagram is probably my number 2 right now. But they work together. And then think about, okay, how can I create some synergy between my platforms? For example, I'm going to start hosting a room on Clubhouse. If you're going to follow me on Clubhouse, it's at Podcast Growth. I'm going to start hosting a regular weekly room on Clubhouse right before this live cast so that I get everybody stirred up and I give them a reason to follow me on Instagram and follow me on YouTube and then come and join the live Q&A. All right. So think about how you can create some synergy and have a really specific podcast social media strategy. That's growth zone number 2, being very strategic with that social media. But maybe you have a really active audience on Twitter. Cool. Then go with that, really drive traffic on that. Maybe you're just getting started and you have to fish in some different fishing spots and look at where you're getting the most interaction. All right. So, but again, I want to reiterate, I don't believe you need to necessarily be everywhere. And like the whole bot thing, the whole automated messaging thing, like I got 2 automated messages from people that I know, that I interact with, and it's almost like insulting. I'm like, why am I getting bot messages from you? Like, you know me, just talk to me. Just talk to me, email, message me. So I'm kind of in the mindset of what can I do on social media that's not scalable? What can I do that makes people realize that I'm willing to get in the trenches and interact and have real conversations? That's why I think Clubhouse is going so well for me right now. And that's why, again, the conversation is transitioning over to Instagram quite nicely. All right, now the third podcast growth zone. If you guys have podcasting questions, drop them in the comments. I'm looking at my different feeds here. Podcast growth zone number 3 that I've really been putting in a lot of work, a lot of focus in, is marketing your show with paid ads on podcast players. All right, I've got a bunch of different players that I do advertising on. I will only mention 2 because I did an episode on one of them, and now it's based off of demand. So the more demand for the ads, the higher the price goes. And I really screwed that platform up for myself and a lot of people that like to use it. So the price has tripled after I dropped that episode, and I started kind of promoting it. So that platform is overcast.fm. It's a little bit pricey right now, but you can, if you have a health podcast, you can run a banner ad at the top of their health podcast category. So when people are listening to health podcasts, you can be at the top and they can click on your banner and subscribe to your show. They track how many clicks, how many subscribers, how many people were in front of your ad, and have a conversion rate. So when I look to place an ad on a podcast player, if I can pay $5 or less per new subscriber, I'm happy. All right. And they'll give you projections on like overcast.fm. Just go to the podcast ad section and you can see all their pricing and things like that. And they'll give you a projection on what you're going to pay per subscriber. And right now, a lot of them are $10 or $15. So it used to be $3, $4, or $5. So again, sorry that I taught too many people about that, I guess. But I've got a few kind of in my pocket that I use. I can still get $1 to $3 per subscriber. And if you want access to that, if you're on Instagram, click the link in my bio and sign up for a 14-day free trial of the Download Growth Club. They get all the good stuff. They know all my good fishing spots. Or if you're one of my coaching clients, like Rahel, she's going to get the good stuff. All right. And if you're on YouTube, you go to downloadgrowthclub.com and you can get the tips on my good podcast player ad fishing spots. So Overcast.fm and Spotify. Spotify is different. It's very much like a Facebook ad. Episode 181 of Podcasting Business School. I dove deep with Chris Krimitsos from Podfest on the Spotify podcast player ad strategy that his wife, Katie, is using to get hundreds of thousands of downloads every single month. And it is pretty damn awesome. All right, let's see here. Rachel Hawkins. Let's see. She's got a question on Instagram here. If you guys have questions about podcasting, then drop them in the comments. All right. So she says, do you have any tips on recording podcast analytics? Should I be using the analytics in my hosting platform, Buzzsprout, or looking at the analytics provided on each individual pod directory like Apple? So analytics, I'm not sure about recording podcast analytics. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but like you should definitely be looking at it. All right. So some interesting things that you can see. I use Libsyn. I'm a Libsyn kind of guy, libsyn.com. But on any good podcast player, you should have some analytics that says, all right, here's how many downloads you have per episode. Here's how many downloads you have after 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Here's where all your downloads are coming from, countries, but also from the podcast players. And then when I'm running ads, I like to have people screenshot that. So if you're going to run an ad on Overcast.fm, screenshot where all your downloads are coming from. So most of them are usually from Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify. Sometimes, people are getting some good traction with like apps like Gaana, Gaana from India is really blowing up. A lot of India podcast listeners are really tuning into, especially business and tech shows from the United States. So shout out to all my listeners from India that listen on Gaana. And if you guys aren't sure, like, I don't know if I'm listed on all these places. I know that Libsyn makes it super easy. I think Buzzsprout makes it fairly easy as well. I've been in there a little bit. But you can go and, like with Libsyn, I go in at the destinations tab across the top when I log in. And I go, okay, let's make sure that I'm listed. Like there was a new Asian podcasting app that just went live. They send me an email saying, hey, make sure you're listed on this. I go in, I click a few buttons, I'm listed. Same thing with Audible. When Audible Podcast came out, that was a big one. We're going to be on that. So you can check that on Libsyn under destinations, and that makes it pretty easy. Rahel, I will give you a view of the water today. You will get that. I posted an Instagram story where I if you guys are wondering how I set up for this, because I'm going live on YouTube as well as Instagram. I got my mic, I've got a light, I've got my camera, my phone, everything rigged up, and my pod dog Millie is here. So if you want to see what that looks like, my on the road rogue podcasting setup, you can check my Instagram story. Just follow Podcasting Business School. All right, let's see here. But analytics wise, back to the analytics question, I would pay attention if you're going to run an ad on Overcast. Screenshot what your stats look like on like before you start running the ad, and then take screenshots each week that the ad is live. And you're going to see, if you run an ad on Overcast, you're going to start seeing a lot more listens pull from that, and it'll pull up in the rankings. Like when I started running Spotify ads, my Spotify numbers, that's good to see. It starts picking up, and I go, oh, the ad's really working. Plus all the feedback that you get from the ad itself. Like they give you numbers of click-throughs, how many people listen to the ad, things like that. So those are the key analytics that I'm looking at. Some podcast players will show you like how long people are listening to it. Like on Apple, you can see if people are skipping to certain parts, how long they're listening. Are they listening to the entire thing? And then when you're starting to insert ads, that's important. And so like the best ads tend to be mid-roll ads because they're in the flow and people usually don't skip forward. Where people kind of, from the advertising perspective, get screwed a little bit is especially if you have music and a kind of a canned intro, people will listen to that a couple of times and then they just skip through. Like that's what I do. I hear the music, I go skip until I stop hearing the music. All right, now we're in the podcast. And I don't listen at the end because it's the same thing over and over again. So like when I have sponsors, like with my show Low Carb Hustle, shout out to my co-host Robert Sykes, the Keto Savage, and Delicious Danny Vega, the Cuban Missile. We do a canned intro that's just kind of a basic intro, but I start doing sponsor reads in the flow of the conversation always. I don't have music behind it. I don't have a little break in the action. It's just in the flow. That way people are listening and it's harder to skip through. And I try to make it entertaining. If you guys are going to Podcast Movement in Nashville, I will be there with my friend Allison Melody. She's going to pull me up on the stage, again, rogue style. And we're going to do a little chat, a little example of a podcast ad that will make people listen. All right. So you can look forward to that. That's on Wednesday the 4th at 4 p.m. local if you're going to Podcast Movement. Okay. I think I got the questions. A lot of questions today. We're still young in this live cast. Hopefully, Rachel, hopefully that helps. And I think Buzzsprout and Libsyn are fairly similar as far as how they interact. So yeah, hopefully that is helpful. I've got to do a little spin around view here. Let's see if I can get that. There we go. Check it out. I don't want to move my camera though, because the whole thing, I've got a Dan Brown book holding up my light and my iPhone feature. There we go. Back to me. All right. So it is beautiful out here at the Lake of the Ozarks. One thing I love about being a podcaster, like this is what I do full time, is podcasting. And then I make connections and I serve the podcasting community through helping them grow their show, help them, mentorship and coaching and courses and things like that. So, one of the things I really love is that, I'm big on keeping consistent content out, and I just put in some work. I went on a 2-week vacation in South Carolina with my family at the beginning of June. I had 3 weeks in between. I batch loaded. So I'm way out. I don't like to just be covered on vacation. I like to be covered for 2 weeks past vacation, because when you get back from vacation, there's a lot of catch up anyway. So I don't want to be scrambling and going, it's Monday. I got to get an episode out of Podcasting Business School tomorrow. I got to find somebody to talk to. I got to find a topic. I got to get it recorded, edited, loaded, social media. All that's done ahead of time for 2 weeks after I get back. That way I like to always stay 2 weeks ahead. So the 3 weeks in between, I just batch loaded everything, my social media, the promo videos, the artwork, obviously the podcast episodes, everything. That's one of the things I really do like about Libsyn, is that I can preload all that and schedule it. When I first started podcasting, I was using SoundCloud, and as soon as you hit, save, the episode was live, and that makes it hard. So I don't like that. I like easy. All right. I think we're good, Pod Pals. I appreciate you. And I will be back in the Pod Bunker next Wednesday. Every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I will be going live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can tune in live for podcasting tips, podcast growth, podcast launching, podcast marketing, whatever podcast questions you've got. I've got tips for you, my Pod Pals. I appreciate you, and we will see you next time.